Welcome everybody. So today we're going to be talking about our clock layouts. Right now I'm about to give you some easy pointers that will hopefully help you with your clock. Some pointers, some life advice that I've learned over the years doing this clock project. So the biggest thing when doing the clock project is a lot of people will just go into it like, oh, I like cats. I'm going to do a cat clock, right? And then there's so many different ideas of, again, how big you want your clock to be, what kind of image you're looking for. You're looking at all different aspects of like coloring and shading and where the clock's going to go, and the layout thing is really big. So let's break it down, right? The first step is think of what kind of clock you want. Simple is usually better. And again, remember, I'm giving you two different pieces of wood, so we're going to be talking about foreground and background today as well. The first step is, again, for me, I'm looking at a clock. I want to do a mouse, right? Now, I typed in mouse clip art. The big thing, right, is, again, we want to start with a nice simple image. A lot of people get really wrapped up, and again, they'll get kind of overwhelmed. So these images are nice and simple. You can see like the coloring, the shading, the detail work isn't like overwhelming, right? If you're going to do this one, again, you might be overwhelmed. So let's just see if we just Googled mouse. Now look at all, like in this mouse alone, think of all the fur, all the subtle shading, the toes. You know, again, are you going to cut out those little toes and the whiskers? I don't know. So instead, let's just think of a nice simple image. Clip art usually has simple images. So you're looking around, let's say I like this one, right? It's a good looking mouse. It's cute. It's adorable. Hello, mouse. So again, I'm going to select it. I'm going to go to, save image as. And I'm going to save this to my computer. So I'm going to rename it something that I'll remember, something I can recall it and find it. I'm going to just simply name it the Cat Mini. And I like to save things to my desktop. You could save it anywhere in here, but desktop, I know where all of my images are. It's just kind of a nice first. So this is my clock. The big thing is, if I were to just print that clock, maybe it's not the size I want. So the next step is I'm going to go to a program called Photoshop. So just go down to Start, type in Photoshop, and you'll instantly realize that there are different Photoshops. Go to CS6, that's the newest Photoshop, and go to the 64-bit one. So CS6 or Adobe Photoshop CVS6 is just the newest, it's the best. So right now, again, this is the program. You're going to start a new kind of design layout here. I'm going to name my new project just clock. Now here's an important thing. I give you all an 8.5 by 11 sheet of wood and also the same size piece of paper. So we're going to do the width as 8.5 and the height as 11. Now what you're going to see is all of a sudden you've got a piece of paper, right? Just like you would from the printer, and this is the same size as the piece of wood you're going to be getting. So let's open up our image again. For me, Cat Mini, it's right there. So a couple things. The first, right? This is my cat. This is my mouse. I'm sorry. Again, we don't know how big this image really is, right? And we also notice it has a white background. So a couple things I'm going to do. The first is I want to make sure that I remove the background from this. So I'm going to double click on this layer called background. Right? And I've just double clicked it and just hit OK. Now I can edit this, right? Now you'll notice I have these different windows. If your screen doesn't look like mine, I really recommend you make sure your layers tab is open, and also history. Those are both great things. So anyways, now I'm going to remove my background, right? I just want the mouse. I don't want the white stuff, right? So to do that, there's a whole bunch of different tools that Photoshop has. For me, I am just interested in the simple ones. Today, I'm going to show you the Magic Wand tool. Right? The Magic Wand tool will enable us to simply, make sure you're on the layer. It's going to enable us to remove this white portion. So in order to remove the white background, I've got my magic wand tool, and I'm just going to be clicking and then press delete on the keyboard. I'm going to notice again it changed to a checker pattern, which means that the background is removed. Click and delete. Now if you see those marching lines, like the spotted lines around there, just hit Control D and those lines will disappear. Anyway, so Control D. Now I move to my move tool and I'll be able to move my image. Again, notice it's black and white checkered around here, which means there's no background, just my little mouse. So click and hold, and I'm going to be clicking and holding, drop. Now all of a sudden you'll see that image we thought might have been big is really quite small in relation to our piece of paper or our piece of wood. So I hit Control T. Control T transforms the size of my image, and I can make it fat, I can make it skinny, or I can hold down Shift and make it the same size but bigger or smaller, so like proportional. And now I can think about, what do I want to do with my mouse? Where do I want to have it? Am I going to cut it out? Am I going to just transfer it to a piece of wood? Right? Maybe just like colored onto a big piece of pine. Boy, I'm going to think about again, how do I make this a clock? What do I actually want as my clock project? I know I want a mouse, but this is an important thing, right? Really put some thought into what you want your clock to look like. Are you going to paint it on like this? Or are you going to wood burn it? I don't know. So let's go to my website now, demcheckmichael.org, and let's get the clock layout. So if you just go under 7th grade projects and clocks, you'll see, I'm sure my website will be updated in different ways, but this little layout here. I'm going to right click. I'm going to right click. I'm going to save image as, and I'm just going to, again, now I've already have this because again it's my computer, so let's call it, I don't know, clock layout 2.1, right? I'm going to save it to my desktop. There it is. I'll go to File, Open. I'll find the file. Again, wherever you put the file is wherever it's going to be. So now notice this has the background removed already, which is sweet, right? So you, again, are all set. You don't need to remove the background. It's all done for you. So I'm just going to grab it, and I'm just going to click and hold, and I'm going to move it over to my clock layout here, and I'm going to put it on my mouse just to see what it would look like, right? This clock would obviously be a little too big for what I want, so Control T, and I'll make it smaller, and I'm going to just drag it over to my mouse, right? And again, I'm just going to look at it. I think it still might be a little bit too small for what I want. It's a little too, I don't know, kind of boring. I don't know. Right, hit enter to get rid of that. And again, see what it looks like. Now, let's say I want to change the size of my mouse. Notice, again, now I'm on the mouse layer. Right? If you notice, now I'm on the clock layer, and I can move the clock. That's an important thing with Photoshop. It'll mess you up. But let's say again, I want. Okay, so now let's shift gears a little bit. I think I'm going to spice up this clock. Maybe, I don't know. Put a little cheese in there. Yeah, a little mice, some cheese. We go hand in hand. So anyways, again, I just searched for cheese. Some of this is far too detailed. I'm just going to change it up to cheese clip art. Again, a simple image. Looking for some cheese. Ironically, I'm lactose intolerant, so I shouldn't be looking too hard. There's this one. Yeah. Do 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 do. I don't know. I could go black and white. You know, it'd be a cool idea for a clock if I got this cheese and then I just drill holes through it, so it'd be like Swiss cheese, or like actual holes. I think that'd be pretty cool. Anyways, let me try this image. I right click to save as. I'm gonna put it in my desktop. Now notice it's a PNG file. Just you'll come up with different kinds of images. A PNG file is cool because it's already set up for Photoshop. So if I pull it up, it's already kind of ready to go. So all I'll need to do is go to the move tool. I'll click, drag, click, 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 click. Oh, it's not working. Bup, 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 bup. So let me try to. You know what? Okay, that was dumb. Let's get another cheese one. I like. Nah. Yeah, I like this one. Great. Piece of cheese. Simple. Great. Save image as. There it is. Looks like a beautiful piece of cheese. I'm going to once again hit open. I'm going to find my cheese. There she is. I'm just quickly again going to double click on the layer. Now I'm going to go to the magic wand here. And I'm just going to press delete. I'm going to click and press delete. Click and delete. Click and delete. And then hit Control D to deselect. I'm going to grab now my cheese, drag it over, and there it is. So now again I'll go to the mouse layer, I'll move the mouse up. Let's see, I want to make my mouse a little bit bigger. Yeah. Okay. Now I'll go to the cheese layer, I'll move the cheese. Maybe make the cheese a little bit bigger. Again, Control T to make things bigger, and then Enter once you're happy with the size. So I'll move it over. Where's my clock? I'll go to layer 2, which is where my clock is. I'll go get my clock. I'll make this bigger. No, I won't. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I want to put the mouse in front of the cheese. So I'm just going to grab the cheese layer right here, which for me is layer 3, and I'm going to drag it underneath the other layer. Right, so now that the cheese layer is behind the mouse and the clock layer, it's at the very bottom of my layer palette, you can see. And now I'll just kind of tweak around. I'll make this clock a little bit bigger now. Right, and again, the clock layout's just to see what your clock would look like, you know, as a clock. And it's just going to help you kind of visualize where you want your clock to be poking out when you actually design and make your clock. Yeah, and again, you're just moving it. The layout phase, again, is you're really just playing around with what's going to look the best, right? And the big thing with this is you can print out this in a couple different ways. You can, again, transfer this a couple ways. You don't really need the clock thing, but again, it's just to help you with the layout. Let's say I'm really happy with this layout right now. I really like how my clock is going to look, just like that, right? So now all you would need to do is I'd be able to print this out, and I'd be able to trace it out, cut it out, transfer it in any way I'd like, right? Now realize if I'm going to be doing this in multiple pieces, let's say the cheese is plywood and the mouse is pine, I might want to separate these images, right? And then print out the cheese separated from the mouse. So I'll transfer the mouse to one piece of wood and the cheese to another piece of wood, right? Because again, you're getting two pieces. So anyways, let's say I'm just going to do it just like this. I'm just gonna get rid of the clock because again, I'm not actually gonna be making the clock like this. It was just to help you again, form a representation. So just I press delete, and now I've just got my mouse and I've got my cheese. So I'm gonna go down to print, right? And then again, you can see here combined the mouse and the cheese. There is one button called Scale to Fit Media. This is to make sure that again it fits on a piece of paper. Okay? You could change it to JH171, which is the printer, and then you could hit print. Right? I'm not gonna print mine, so I'll just press escape. Right? Save any work. Yes, yes, yes. If you want to save it, of course, please do. If you're done, you can leave, but I would recommend you save everything.